So Christ, in the hypostatic union, two natures. We must not think they operate independently, as if they're rival parties, or there's a toggle switch between the two, or one is veiled from the other. We must not conceive of the two wills, because he had two wills, because will is a property of nature. So the triune God, one essence, one will. The incarnate Christ, two natures, two wills. We must not think that though the human needed to submit itself to the divine, that they were some implacable antagonists, that there was in Christ the spirit lusting against the flesh. That would not speak to Christ's purity and holiness. But you say, well, what about Christ's pain, his hunger, his sorrow, his weakness, his death? How are those possible then for the God-man? If we conclude that Christ is impeccable, must we also say that Christ was unable to suffer? No, surely he did suffer. Shed distinguishes between, quote, all the innocent defects and limitations of the finite and then the culpable defects and limitations of sinful man. The in-flesh Son of God was liable to the weaknesses that come from a human body, but without the moral defects or the possibility of moral defects. There was in him no actual sin, no indwelling sin, no affinity towards sin. He did make real choices, but there was no possibility he would choose what was wrong. At heart here is the Chalcedonian conviction that whatever Christ did, he did as one undivided theanthropic, theos, anthropos, God-man, one theanthropic person. The Son of God, we must always remember, in the incarnation, became what he was not without ceasing to be what he was. He became what he was not without ceasing to be what he was. So the language is important. He assumed a human nature. He was not transformed. That is to say, Christ is not a deified humanity, but a humanized deity. It wasn't that he took, there's a Jesus off the street, come here, if I got something for you, and then he infused some human person with a divine nature. No, it was the Logos, eternal, with God, was God, that assumed a human nature. Shedd argues Christ's ability to sin must be measured according to his mightiest nature. He gives a good illustration. Just as a wire can be bent by itself, but if you were to weld that wire to an iron bar, it would render that wire immovable according to its mightiest nature. So Jesus is rendered impeccable by the union of the human and divine natures.